Today we have a chance to talk a little bit more with our distinguished alumni, Mr. Brandon Snider. Welcome back, Mr. Snider. You had a chance to talk with student body earlier, but we wanted to take some time to talk a little bit more with you. Earlier you touched a little bit about your high school experience with the combination of acting on the side. Besides theater, what was high school like for you?
I mean, high school at Mariemont was kind of a mixed bag. Theater was a place where I felt safe and supported. It was something that I had been wanting to do since I was a little kid. So it was great. But I also got bullied a lot. I was a new kid at Terrace Park Elementary, and that sort of followed me. I wasn't really, it would be untruthful for me to say that my entire high school experience was great. So it was a mixed sort of bag.
What has changed in the school or the district since you left?
Well, I will say that this school is much more beautiful than when I went here, where the color scheme was brown, orange, and green, and like a mustard color. So that right away. But I feel like sometimes with Mariemont, as much as things can change, things can stay the same. I think that the community sometimes gets focused on a kind of idyllic nostalgia about itself. So everybody, as the world changes, Mariemont stays the same, sometimes to its detriment. But I think that, I think I've definitely seen that there are people here that are more progressive-minded, which is very encouraging. That's something I've seen that's been a big change.
What would you change about the high school? Just a little bit.
What would I change about the high school? I think I will say that the size, the smallness of the classes has been a positive thing. I think that it gives a little bit more for individualized attention. And when I've met people over the years that have come from big high schools, they're kind of a little bit jealous because you come from a school that's so small. But the detriment is that when you come from a school that's very small, people think that they know you. People think they know everyone. And it's hard to escape because there's all these sort of, weird social hierarchy stuff.
Would your high school self recognize you today and your accomplishments?
I think my high school self would be pretty impressed with what I've done and accomplished. Because especially being in a job that is a part of a lot of people's dreams, they dream of being a writer, they dream of being an actor. For me, it was a passion thing. I feel like a dream was something that was untouchable that I wouldn't be able to get to, but a passion is something that you follow because you're called to do it. And I feel like I was called to be an actor, called to be a writer. I have lived some of my dreams, writing about certain characters that I was a fan of as a kid, writing things like Mad Libs that I loved as a kid, being on television. These are all things that I've dreamed. So I feel like if I was to go back in time and talk to my high school self, I would probably give him a lot of advice that the things that you're experiencing here that are affecting you negatively are things that you shouldn't let. And it's difficult to say this, but you shouldn't let those things get to you so much, even though and it's hard because I was experiencing certain things every day. I mean, getting on the bus was a real nightmare for a period of time. So I would just reassure myself that things turn out really good in the end, and that my time here will not last forever. And once I leave, I'll be able to spread my wings and soar.
And whenever you left, did you get any cultural shock?
So I went to college in South Carolina, which is its own sort of cultural shock. But then moving to New York was something that I always wanted to do because New York is representative of the country and the world because it is filled with diversity. A million different types of culture and food and people, whereas this community, as good as it can be and as it can be a bubble. And getting out of the bubble, you recognize that, oh, wow, there's a whole world out there that's really exciting to explore. And I would also encourage students to do is to not be a tourist in the world outside the bubble. It's really easy to move through the world as an outsider. instead of somebody who is trying to actively engage and learn more and absorb more about the world and all the things it has to offer. So yeah, don't be a passive watcher. Engage in the world around you.
Did anything in this high school lead you to where you are now?
I would say that the things that led me to where I am now that I had at this high school was support from my theater teacher and English teacher, Kathy Ransenberg. Without her support, I wouldn't have ever felt that I could truly become an actor professionally. I had support from my parents, absolutely, but because she was somebody who was came from a theater background, she was a director, for her to take the time and give me these opportunities and again, it goes back to the small school thing. Excuse me. To have somebody who is willing to take the time to foster talent was a big deal. And she also taught me to treat people well. When I was not having a great freshman year, coming and being in the fall play was like a huge thing. It was the place that I felt the most safe and supported and connected. And it was I feel very lucky that I had a teacher that made that space for people because I know that not everybody has that.
Did you ever lose passion on writing or acting whenever someone let you down?
I mean, I've tried to take the negative experiences that I've had in my life and put them into my work as an adult. I mean, it wasn't until I was an adult and I was on the other side of a lot of sort of stuff that I had to go through. I put myself through a lot of heartache. I didn't come out until I was 35 because I had a really poor self-image that I got at this school. And so to be on the other side of that, it allowed me to look at my work in a new way. Writing about myself and putting my own experiences into fictional stuff has been a healing process. The series that I'm working on, middle grade series called Cootie Kid about my experiences at Terrace Park Elementary, it's semi-autobiographical. It's not exactly autobiographical, but being able to write about those things, especially as it relates to sort of teaching better ways to behave and move through the world for younger people, is a healing process for me. And I also think it's entertaining because my sense of humor comes as a defense mechanism. I mean, I had to have a sense of humor or I would not have survived this experience. And I think making dark jokes is something that has healed me. And yeah, the dark humor that I've acquired from years of BS has really paid off.
Is there anything you would say to the people with like low self-image, even if they aren't out about it?
Well, for one, I would say be kind to yourself is really the biggest thing that I can say. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and be empathetic. You don't know what other people are going through. What I came to understand about a lot of the people that harassed me the most is that they must have experienced some kind of trauma. For me to treat me so terribly, they must have experienced that as well. And it's not easy to hold sometimes that kind of kindness and empathy for somebody who is an abuser or a bully, because you just want them to stop. You want them to face consequences for their actions, and sometimes that doesn't happen. There were certainly people that were terrible to me that faced consequences, and some that did not. But I think being kind to yourself and knowing that you're worth it is a huge part of that because it allows you to operate independent of any of that harassment. And if I was able to do that, it was really, and it's hard in a small place like this because you can't escape people. In a big school of 400 people, it's easier to disappear and escape. But here, it might not be so easy. But there is peace on the other side because this experience won't last forever. And you don't have to stay in this community forever. You are able to go out into the world and become whoever you want. And yeah, if you don't feel that you're being served here, just know that there will come a time where you'll be able to go elsewhere and be who you were meant to be.
I know you talked about your new project, Cootie Kid, and is there any project that you are most proud of, even if it's not out in public?
I'm really proud of a short play that I wrote called A Weekend Conference. It's about three men on their way to a gay conversion therapy weekend. It's a dark comedy. I struggled with my religion as it related to, or struggled with my sexuality as it related to religion. I used to consider myself Christian, and it was very difficult for me to reconcile, even though I didn't have a conversion therapy experience, it was very difficult for me to reconcile how I could be a good Christian and then also be this thing that I was being told was an abomination, and that I was going to hell for. And so writing that particular play was very cathartic for me because I was able to put a lot of all of those experiences and the way that I felt into it. And then also laugh at it and have other people laugh at it, because I found with that particular piece, you make people laugh up front and then you hit them with the serious stuff and they can understand the gravity of the situation in a new way because you've already made them feel vulnerable enough to sort of get the message, right? So that one's very special. It's very special. Like Mad Libs, I love Mad Libs. So writing Mad Libs has been a real special thing. I kind of feel like anything I'm working on at any given time is my favorite thing. I feel like how I have to approach it. Whatever I'm working on is like the thing. And yeah, I love it all.
Is there any advice you would give to people who have like writer's block or can't focus on one thing?
I mean, I have trouble focusing for sure. I think writer's block is one of those things that sometimes means different things to different people, but sometimes you just have to write. You have to shut up and write. So if you have a prompt, if you have a mission, if you're writing something for school, my advice would be to sit down and do it and shut up. But seriously, shut up, do it, get it done, and then you can go back and see what it is. Because there might be good things in it, even though you were struggling to get it out, there might be good things. But at least you have something then that you can go back and critique and say, all right, what was I trying to do? What do I need to do to fulfill this requirement, whether it's you're writing a paper about a topic for school or something. But yeah, structure. Find a structure that works for you and stick to it.
What would you say to people who want to pursue acting or writing but can't get past that business?
I would say managing the business side of a career in the arts and entertainment can be very difficult, but you have to also recognize if you're in the arts and you're doing something for yourself. I do write books for other people, but I also do these things for myself. It makes me happy. And the business aspect can be really frustrating because you have to manage things. I would love it if I didn't have to. As much as I want to share about my books, being on social media can be like a sewer nightmare because you're expected to put out so many things and let people know and share. And whereas I really just want to be doing the work and then sharing the work. So there are little business aspects that can be annoying. But as long as you're focusing on the work, as long as you're developing your writing skills or your acting skills, as long as you're committing to developing your voice and making it the best that it can be, I think that's the thing to focus on. And the business aspects you will have to tend to, but let those be secondary. Because the business stuff, you might be struggling to sort of make peace with those things, whereas the artistic part is the thing that will give you the best reward in the end.
As we're wrapping up our time together, I have a final question. Is there any advice or anything you would like to say to anyone in high school?
High school is not the end. It's the beginning. You are not defined by who you are in high school. High school is one part of a long journey. Your life is not even beginning. So if high school is a real pain in the ass for you, just know it'll be over. And people will, in some cases, completely forget it. So just focus on doing what you need to do to get through it if you need to. And then know that on the other side, that's where your life will begin. Because sometimes I've met people whose entire life revolved around high school, and then they never grew. They never went on to do the things that they wanted. Their best years were high school. And I think anybody who has lived on this earth more than 30 years, 40 years, I would say would hope to not have their best years be when they were 16.
Thank you again, Mr. Snider, for sharing important information about yourself and sharing your experiences about high school with us.